Hey, it's Drybear. Path of Exile 2 had been prepping this .g or G version update for about a week and a half now, and this is focused on most of the complaints we've been getting for Path of Exile 2 Dawn of the Hunt, the Season 2 launch for the game. A lot of people saying that they don't like the length of the campaign, a lot of people complaining about the amount of drops and the level of dopamine and endorphins you're getting while playing the game in general, and so they've been promising a major update to focus on the experience of getting loot and the progression of your character in Season 2. So let's dive into it. The 0.2.0G patch notes went live just a bit ago, and they actually started pushing the patch out as well. And it was about 5 hours of downtime if you're trying to play overnight. You were unable to. And actually, this patch specifically went live and then was rolled back. There was a critical issue they found where skill gems were completely vanishing from people's inventories, among other issues. And so they decided to just roll the patch back. So if you're in game wondering if any of these changes are live, they currently aren't. They're looking to redeploy once they found the issue and sorted it out. But just for posterity's sake, that is likely they'll be able to get it out today, if not tomorrow. So they're imminently trying to apply this patch. Let's just go through the changes that are coming so that, you know, if you watch it now or in the next 24 hours, hopefully the patch is out and now you know what's going in. First off, the major complaint for the game, and I would say the most reasonable complaint for the game right now, is just that the process of progressing and getting loot is very unsatisfying for most. I mean, there's still people that are pushing, but I would say the overwhelming perspective on the game right now is that you don't get enough currency to be able to trade. You don't get enough currency to be able to craft. When you craft, you don't get good results. And when the loot drops on the ground, it's not very rewarding. There's still people doing like level 95 plus, maxed out Atlas and still getting like orbs of transmutation dropping from really high level Vald Strongboxes, that sort of thing. So the first change is they modified the rarity value at which normal items no longer drop. This means that unique bosses that will never drop normal items except for a select few early in the game. And I think they probably expected this to be more like Path of Exile 1. Really, in PoE 1, you're just trying to grab anything that can be either disenchanted or dismantled into a useful crafting item, or you're trying to find good bases that can be used to craft the best in slot item. Whereas you don't really see that as much in Path of Exile 2. You tend to go a little bit further. What I mean by that is, like in PoE 1, you may find a white item or a blue item that has like the perfect roll single affix, or maybe even a yellow item that doesn't have all the affixes on it, that has the good stats on it. Use that as a base to build an excellent item. Whereas in PoE 2, because the crafting is a little bit more RNG, you tend to want a higher threshold for your base item start point, and we don't really see people using white items for that as much, though we do sell people chancing white items in order to be able to get a very expensive unique that they can sell on the auction house. They have halved the amount of rare gold drops. This means that if you roll a rare item, you get more rare equipment or rare currency instead of gold. So they have this, I mean, if you don't know, there's a secret hidden tier system to the drops in the game. The higher the tier, the better chance you have of getting a better item. And that rarity and tier system applies to anything that comes on the ground, including piles of gold. You'll sometimes find, piles of gold that are like 1 gold, and then you'll find a pile of gold that has like a red-orange beam coming out of it when it drops, and it's like, 1,500 gold or something like that. That's a super high rarity drop. So what they did is they cut down the amount of times gold, like super rare gold piles drop. So if you kill a unique boss or something like that, it'll be more common for it to drop currency items, crafting items, and of course actual gear instead of just piles of gold. Next, gold, magic currency, quality currency, flask charms, and runes are now much less likely to drop from monsters with high item rarity. So again, just like the last one, they're limiting the amount of gold drop piles, or like high rarity gold piles a unique boss will have, and increasing or decreasing, the other drops that are there as well. Just lower quality things to focus on the higher quality drops to force more of those drops to be meaningful. These 3 changes result in around 20 to 30% more rare currency, exalts, alchemies, regals, potentially even divines, depending on how things are and what kind of map you're doing at the time. Next, tier 2 rare items now have 4 times, they drop 4 times more often. Tier 3 to 5 now drop 30% more often. The modifiers of tiered rares have also been improved by cutting out more low-level modifiers, making them better on average than before. Tier 2 and higher magic items now drop around 5 times more often. The low-level modifier culling of tiered magics has been significantly improved, with Tier 2 now culling 50% of the modifier range and improving from there. Tier 5 drops of magic items will usually only roll the highest modifier available for a given type. This means that tiered magic items should be a much better starting point for crafting or recom. So you can actually use those blue items more often. If you are in a higher tier zone or you have a higher drop rarity overall, they culled a lot of the bad drops and improve, which then, because it's a weighted system, improves the amount of higher quality drops, and they're making the base item drops of high rarity have a better affix with a higher roll, so they could use it for crafting or recombination. Next, unique monsters, except for a few at the start of Act 1, all will always drop a rare item. So if they are of unique quality, the boss you're fighting, they will drop at least a rare item, plus the changes that we just talked about. However, they note that in campaign, before you unlock Atlas and Endgame, you only get the guaranteed rare item the first time you kill a boss. So they're making sure that you can't just jump in, do a campaign boss, kill it, reload, kill it, reload, kill it, and just farm a bunch of rare items guaranteed. Honestly, I feel like this one seems like it's a little bit too protective of their precious campaign. I can definitely see this being a problem in like speed runs and races and things like that. But I don't know. I feel like there's definitely enough cries now, and part of it is due to the fact that cruel difficulty exists and you have to do the same campaign twice. But I feel like they probably don't need to be as protective and coveted of their precious campaign currently, considering that most players finish the campaign now, including Cruel, in like 20 to 30 hours, which is far and away the longest out of most ARPGs, if not all ARPGs on the market now. They also made a change to the very light quote-unquote seasonal mechanic we have for Season 2. A lot of this was just they had it ready and they wanted to use it, so they did. They didn't really plan for this to be a season, but they had a mechanic and they wanted to toss it in there with the Wisps. So I'd kind of write this off as like, hey, this is just, I don't know, you got an extra packet of sauce with your burger, but you were going to eat the burger anyway, so whatever. So like the Wisps are there. But for at least this seasonal bonus, they made it so rare monsters possessed by the Wisps now always drop a rare item, so they're kind of treated like unique bosses in that fashion. And they fixed a bug where the first Wisp in the Grellwood didn't have its item rarity or quantity stats. Next, magic chests have drastically increased item rarity and quantity, and also guarantee at least a magic item, which has the improved magic item drops that we just talked about. They are approximately as rewarding as rare chests were before. I still think they probably need to take a huge buff. Oh, but we're about to talk about it. I was gonna say Strongboxes are still pretty trash, but looks like we're gonna land on that in a second. Rare chests have also drastically increased item rarity and quantity, and guarantee at least a rare item as well. In Cruel difficulty, chests get a further 50% more item quantity and item rarity, and 100% more in Endgame, making them very powerful there. So all of these changes are going to be amplified by the map system as you start getting higher scaling rarity and quantity dropping from those as well. We have changed the map modifiers that increase the chance of finding magic and rare chests to instead add a fixed number of additional magic or rare chests. This is a great change because the affix that you have on your maps that has a chance to find the chests can still not mean anything, and it's also very hard to measure. Whereas I think if you have a discrete number, a fixed amount, like 3 more chests exist on this map, I think it's a little bit easier to feel and will guarantee extra loot that you normally wouldn't get, which I think is a better improvement. I still think that they need to make the rarity of items and chance of waystones potentially even to be implicit on maps. I think that we're at a point now where no one runs maps that don't have increased item rarity or quantity. Like, there's just no reason to ever run those maps that don't have them. So I feel like if that's the case, where you just never run maps that don't have them, you may as well just make it baseline and default. So I was hoping to see that in this patch. We don't see that here, but they are making loot better in many ways that could have a compounding effect that we'll just have to try once the patch goes live again. Next up is Strongboxes. Finally, these things I don't know about you guys, but I stopped crafting them. I did a bunch where you'd you carry your extra currency items with you and you juice them up and vol them and stuff, and it just ends up being such a huge waste to the point where you probably could have just used that currency for literally anything else and it would have been fine. But they are making some changes to Strongboxes. Strongboxes have increased item quantity and item rarity, guarantee a rare item, as well as getting a further 50% more item quantity and rarity in Cruel, and 100% more in Endgame. So a doubling of their item quantity and rarity, plus a guaranteed rare item every time they drop, and an increase to their baseline as well, which is irrespective of difficulty and game progress. Researcher Strongboxes will now have a much higher chance to drop rare currency instead of magic currency. This makes them super nice. I actually really like the Researcher Strongbox and the Gambling Strongbox as well, but I probably had the best chances or the best experiences with Researcher Strongbox, but that's not consistent. Sometimes it just is a whole bunch of nonsense. Like I said earlier, you could just get, 8 orbs of transmutation or augmentation when you open it. You're like, well, why did I do the encounter then? So hopefully that improves the drop chance of those as well. Reduce the variance in the number of items strong boxes drop. They should more consistently drop a good number of items. So once this goes live, we'll have to see how strong boxes actually turn out. Next, a lot of people had complaints about the 2 trials. I think this has been consistent since the launch of the game. There's just been a lot of mixed opinions on whether, Trial of Sekhemas is actually, fun and enjoyable, or if it's fair for all builds versus not just the top 30% of builds that season particularly, or builds that are designed to deal damage safely without taking any in return. So for the Trial of Sekhemas, the regular bronze chests now have the same base balance as rare chests do in the normal difficulty campaign, including guaranteeing a rare item. So even the basic bronze chests at the end of each floor of Sekhemas will have at least a rare item rather than just a bunch of junk, which is really nice. The next one is silver and gold chests increase item rarity and item quantity by values significantly higher than before. Arcanist chests have had the same improvements to drop composition as Researcher's Strongboxes, so drop rarity, guaranteed drop, things like that. And then Arcanist chests and Royal chests are much more common. This is actually huge. I actually find that when I'm looking for a good source of jewels, I tend to try to do Sekhemas if I have a whole bunch of extra coins laying around. So those Royal chests are a big favorite of mine. The Arcanist chests I feel like sometimes can be nice, sometimes not, but it really depends. But having more of them showing up rather than just pure gear chests I think is nice. Also, the chance of getting silver and gold keys as room rewards instead of bronze keys has been significantly increased. I don't know about you guys, but I find that once you get like halfway across the trial map, the rest of usually you end up choosing the one that hides all your rewards or challenges, just because all the other options, like the afflictions, are so rough. So I find that on most of my trial runs, I usually end up by like the second half of the map or the last third of the map. I stop knowing what I'm clicking on because it's all hidden, but I don't know if that's something that you guys experience as well. But either way, silver and gold keys are now going to be more common as compared to before. Next for Trial of Chaos, as you continue to increase the level you play the Trial of Chaos, corrupted rares are phased out from the rewards and rare currency stacks are phased in. I think this is something that they even brought up themselves about 2 weeks ago, that having items that drop as already being corrupted is really lame, because you may want to add something to it, you may want to modify something on it, you may want to like get it prepared to be volled, but if you don't get the chance to, like having white items drop is volled, or having blue items drop is already corrupted, even yellow items which you may want to have tweaked a little bit, dropping as already corrupted is kind of rough. So they made it so you as you continue to play the level Trial of Chaos, corrupted rares are slowly removed from the loot pool and rare currency stacks are phased in, which means the higher level the Chaos, as you push towards the Trial Master, you'll have more chance of getting globally useful currency rather than locked up corrupted items you can't change. They also changed it so that items that drop from monsters in the trial no longer have a chance to be corrupted as well. Next, they made some changes to the Path of Exile 1 leagues turned into endgame activities in PoE 2, starting with Expedition. Expedition magic and rare chests now have the same base balance as other endgame magic and rare chests. Normal Expedition chests have also been improved. They fixed a bug where increased chest item rarity from Expedition remnants was not multiplying correctly. They buffed the rewards from most Expedition remnant mods. They doubled the number of Expedition artifacts that drop. They increased the amount of exotic coinage by about 50%. they buffed the Expedition Remnant upside modifiers, overall have been buffed. Several Expedition Remnant downsides have been adjusted. The Expedition Remnant modifier that caused monsters to have a 100% chance to avoid being CC'd has been, or elemental status effect I should say, has been replaced with a new modifier that increases their ailment threshold, so it's a little bit more universal, and 2 new Expedition Remnant upside modifiers have been added, and these can be found in map areas. For Delirium, they increased the amount of item rarity per depth in Delirium encounters. It increases to approximately 2.5 times what it was before. This is nice because I feel like a lot of times you weren't as rewarded for going deeper and deeper into the Delirium, so this is a nice change. The Delirious percentage scaling with waves in Simulacrum has been reduced. Each wave now adds 5% Delirious, previously 10%, and up to a maximum of 75% at difficulty 0, previously 100%. So a little bit smoother upgrade and a smaller cap, as well as 150% at difficulty 4, previously 140. So it doesn't scale up as aggressively, and when it does, it doesn't reach as high of a cap when you're looking at the Delirious percentage, and many Simulacrum modifiers have had the benefits they provide to Delirium monsters reduced. Next, on the accessibility to Pinnacle content and Atlas passives. Reduce the number of corrupted nexuses you need to complete your Atlas passive tree. Each corrupted nexus now grants 5 skill points, allowing you to complete the task much faster. They just sped this process up. It was a little tedious and honestly probably contributed to the feeling like people were burning out in Season 2, is not only did it take you longer than most ARPGs to get to endgame, but also once you were there, the grind to endgame was rough. In fact, a lot of people that are still playing Season 2, Dawn of the Hunt, are just very hesitant to start a second character, just because of the amount of required effort to get a second character going in Path of Exile 2. So the number of corrupted nexuses needed is down, and you will grant 5 skill points for completing them as well, which is a nice change overall. Increase the visibility of corrupted nexuses so you can see them from further away. The Atlas passive skill points have been retroactively granted. There are a few scenarios where you will have fewer than before. In this case, your Atlas skills has been reset, so when you log in, once they ship this patch for the second time, you'll be able to reapply those points. Breach splinter drop rates have been increased by 50%. Delirium splinter drop rates have been increased by 80%, and the chance of finding audiences with the king in rituals increased by 50%. Some of these buff numbers, especially since they overlap, are just ridiculous. Like, this is actually so much buffing, and we'll see if it's going to be enough for people to really feel like it. And you could very easily go the opposite way with this, where you over buff it and then people get overloaded with gear. But I think we're definitely in the famine side of that kind of conversation, where a lot of people just don't feel like they're getting enough from everything. So having these kind of crazy buffs coming in across the board should hopefully make a nice difference. Next, for player changes, Trinity now provides 3 to 6% more elemental damage with attacks per 30 resonance at gem levels 14 to 20, which was previously 710 per 50, so it activates sooner. On dealing elemental damage with an attack hit, it now grants 10 to 13 resonance of the highest and loses 3. So it builds up faster and removes faster, which is really nice. You now lose 10 resonance per second of specific types if you haven't gained resonant of that type in the past 8 seconds. Quality now provides increased attack speed while total resonance is over 250, which is really nice. Increased the more elemental damage with attacks per 50 resonance of any type, and the results in the same damage on average with easier buildup. So they're kind of saying that they really want Trinity to be used by elemental attackers, not elemental spellcasters, as there is going to be some benefit there, but attack speed could potentially affect some of their hybrid builds as well. But this is generally, I mean, I was still using Trinity as it was, just because it was kind of like a global option for people that are hopefully single element. But in this case, I think they just really needed to bring up the process. And I think there's definitely a downside if you're trying to do multi-element with this, because you'll build up and spend faster. But I think if you're doing single element, you'll build up way faster and get more benefit from it, which I think will make it fit more nicely into a niche. Mara's Anguish Dousing Charm no longer guarantees a critical hit if any amount of chance to be critically hit is present on the enemy. It will now roll critical hit chance normally in these cases. Most skills as well that have no mana cost, which you don't cast yourself, are now also granted a hidden no skill cost stat, preventing them from gaining additional costs, such as Lich's Eldritch Empowerment. I didn't even realize this was happening. So I guess because of the way the Eldritch Empowerment was built and put into game, you could actually get hidden costs added to it in some cases. Elemental Discharge, Impending Doom's Doom Blast, and Blink. Spells you cast yourself, granted from wands and staves, will still be able to get additional costs. It just won't be skills that have no mana cost by default. Bursting Plague now adds 100% of damage per second from poison as plague, so half what it was before, but it now stores up a maximum of 20% of the enemy's maximum life as plague, previously 10%, which means the amount of poison that builds up naturally is less, but the amount of poison you get against percentage HP is higher, because it's something that takes time to build up and also is like a, you know, once you use it, it's gone. So it is kind of better to have it be more impactful and scale better with the enemy you're facing, rather than just popping it against a boss and it doing no damage. The Starkonja's head unique helmet now causes damage from hits to be taken from your damageable companion's life before you. Lightning Bolt's base radius is now bigger than it was before, 0.5 to 0.8 meters. Impale, inflicted on players, now lasts 4 seconds, previously never expired. Impale, inflicted on a non-player, is not affected by this change, is still the same with the duration. Flash Grenade can no longer blind the user or their allies. I didn't know you could blind your allies with Flash Grenade. That is actually, I mean, don't do that. Battershout's triggered explosion now counts as a war cry, which could open some really interesting builds. And hazards created by rearming will no longer count towards the maximum allowance of that hazard type. So Explosive Spear, that's kind of nice. It means that if you have pre-existing ones that rearmed, it's not going to prevent you from adding new ones depending on how you spam. So that's going to be a nice change. Moving on to other changes and improvements. Existing crystalline cores that are no longer obtainable have been deleted. Scepters, wands, and staves can now correctly roll an additional rune socket as a corruption outcome. So that is super nice. Nice little addition there. So, you know, wands and staves have been getting better and better over the last month or so. The number of monsters in Trials of Chaos areas below level 75 has been reduced. Blade Lash Transcendent's melee damage has been reduced, and their attack distance has been adjusted as well. The Leap Slam skill used by Vile Imps and Unearthed Urchins can now be dodged, blocked, and evaded. I didn't even realize it couldn't, but I guess now that makes sense when I'm doing evade dodge builds. It does feel like those Leap Slams are kind of dangerous. I try to just never get hit by them if possible, but it depends on the build. Earnwalker's Scarab Cloud skill now deals damage less frequently. Faradun Plaguebringer's Detonate Dead skill has had its damage slightly lowered and the visual effects improved. Improve the visual effects of the stalking pustule monsters, temporarily disabled the Vol Enforcer monster. They didn't say as to why that is, but I guess there's an issue there. Improve the visibility of connections between maps on the Atlas, especially in the desert biome. They added mini-map icons for the landmark rooms found in the Titan Grotto, Deshar, and Maudin Quarry. This is probably going to affect the Quarry and the Grotto the most here. Added a world map icon for the Titan's Fall in the Titan Grotto. Thank God. I mean, I feel like if you've done the campaign enough times, you probably already know how to do the Titan Grotto. I have a very specific order on how I do Act 2 just because of this, but having it be clearer to newer players is great, because then you can then go back to it and maybe even just showing like a number of seals or something. I feel like a lot of players get stuck in that zone, not knowing what the heck to do or where the heck to go. They also added in checkpoints to the Twisted Domain. And lastly, there's a bunch of bug fixes in here. Nothing that's like, some of these are very subjective or just kind of clean up things on what they're trying to solve. So I'll just kind of scroll through them so you can see them if you wanted to pause the video and see what they have fixed. They did make some stability changes and some client crashes and other things like that that have been targeted. And hopefully that is an improvement for everyone that's been having those issues. But that is the list of the patch that's going live, hopefully later today as we get caught up on it. But let me know what you think about these changes. If you're someone that's actively playing PoE 2, every week and kind of keeping up with the season, how do you feel about these in your current experience? If you're someone who stopped playing PoE 2 and you kind of moved on to other things while you wait for the changes to be implemented, do you feel like this is enough on a scale from 1 to 10? 10 being, oh my God, I can't believe they fixed everything I ever wanted. What would you give this patch, and what does this mean for you in your PoE 2 career? Down below in the comments. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for
for other content and other stuff and other things.